We've just finished playing a 3-player game of Strike of the Eagle, and we've played Scenario 5, Miracle on the Vistula. We played it 3-player. Hamish and myself were playing the Poles, and Patrick was playing the Russian side. This scenario is based on the Polish counter-offensive that occurred when the Poles were on the verge of defeat. Taking a look at the map at the conclusion of the battle. At the beginning of the battle, the Soviet forces were in the outskirts of Warsaw, threatening from the northwest and northeast directions. So we're here and here. And the front line ran around, threatening the cities of Lublin and Lviv. So the Soviets were really pushing deep into Poland, and they had been on a offensive for some time, and their morale was high, and the Poles came up with a rather ingenious counterattack. So that was the aim of our game today, to recreate that as the Polish side, and Patrick's aim was to prevent that and keep driving on towards Warsaw. The Soviets started with 8 victory points, and the winning conditions were that the team or the side with the higher number of victory points were the victors in this game. It was played over nearly 2 rounds, and the initiative started with the Soviets on the northern flank and the Poles on the southern flank. Let's start with the southern flank very quickly. This was one where Hamish, as the Polish player, ran into a lot of trouble earlier on, and his forces were really thinned out. But he made a pretty excellent comeback and held that southern flank, although at the end of the game his forces in Lviv were totally surrounded and were looking at some attritional supply losses if the game had proceeded. But the southern flank really was weak at some point, but through some skilled play by Hamish, we were managed able to hang on to it. Over on the northern flank, I ground away and slowly forced the Soviets back away from Warsaw and towards the city of Bialystok, which offered an extra +2 VPs for this particular scenario. A couple of times during the game, I nearly managed to encircle and cut off the supply of a significant number of Soviet divisions. But unfortunately, in the crucial battles on 2 occasions, I just lost those battles by 1 strength point, which would have really swung the odds in our favour, and that was really down to some good play by Patrick, particularly some good card play. But that would have been great. It would have sort of recreated what the Poles wanted to do in history as well. So towards the end of the game, I just kept pushing back, and the Soviet forces were getting weakened. They were taking considerable losses, and my aim was to get at least towards Bialystok and get those extra +2 victory points. But as usual, Patrick put up a stubborn fight, and I've cleared the suburbs of Warsaw, pushed the Soviets back, wasn't able to get Bialystok, and the game came down to the wire in the end. At the very last battle, which happened on the outskirts of Ostroleka, Patrick was down 1 victory point, so we had the Poles 1 victory point. I put in an attack at that point, which wasn't required, but because I'd committed to it, I had to do it. And in that attack, I managed to get 25 combat value strengths points, and unfortunately, and this is where a glitch in the game came up, Patrick won the battle because the column only goes to 18 plus, and then we hadn't taken into account some defensive adjustments, and Patrick ended up winning that battle and scoring a victory point which swung the battle in his favour and the game in his favour. So it was very close, and a lot of fun, and yeah, it makes us want to dig deeper into this game, but it does require some rules tweaks, we think, some regards to retreating and attacking, and that column was a frustration at 18 plus, but I think it's a rare thing that you're going to get 25 combat value. So that's scenario 5, Miracle on the Vistula, the Battle of Warsaw, a win to the Soviets by 1 victory point.